Growing up, Tommy and I were the best of friends. We grew up in the same neighborhood and did everything together. We went to the same schools, played the same sports, and even shared the same hobbies. We were inseparable. One summer, we decided to take on a big project together. We wanted to build a treehouse in the forest behind our houses. We spent all of our free time working on it, hammering nails and sawing wood until we had built the most impressive treehouse in the neighborhood. "Wow, we did it!" Tommy exclaimed as we finished putting up the last few boards. "This is going to be our secret hideout. No one else can come in here." "I know, right?" I replied, grinning from ear to ear. "This is going to be the coolest place in the world." As we sat inside our new treehouse looking out at the world below, we made a promise to each other. We would always be friends no matter what happened. It was a promise we both took seriously, and one that would carry us through many years of ups and downs. "Hey, Jack," Tommy said, looking over at me. "I know we're just kids, but I mean it. We're going to be friends forever." "Absolutely," I replied. "We'll never let anything come between us." And we meant it. We were the kind of friends who would do anything for each other, no matter what. Little did I know that years later, Tommy would break that promise in the most unimaginable way possible. It was a typical Wednesday evening when Karen asked me to check her email for her. She had just come home from work and was too tired to go through her inbox. I didn't think anything of it at the time, but as I scrolled through her emails, I saw something that made my heart stop. There was an email from Tommy with a subject line that read, "Missing you already." My hands started shaking as I opened the email, and what I saw inside was even worse. There were intimate messages between Tommy and Karen, talking about things that should only be shared between a husband and wife. "Jack, what's wrong?" Karen asked, noticing my sudden change in demeanor. "Nothing," I lied, closing the laptop and trying to hide my shock. "Are you sure?" she pressed, putting a hand on my shoulder. "I said, it's nothing," I snapped, pushing her hand away. I couldn't believe what I had just seen. My best friend and my wife were having an affair behind my back. Later that night, when Karen had gone to bed, I stayed up for hours reading and rereading the emails between Tommy and Karen. I couldn't wrap my head around it. How long had it been going on? How could they do this to me? The next day, I tried to act normal, but I couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal. When Tommy called me to ask if we could hang out that night, I hesitated. "Hey man, you okay?" he asked. "I'm fine," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "You sure? You sound kinda off." "I said I'm fine, Tommy. Just busy with work, you know." "All right. Well, let's grab a drink later. I could use a break from all this stress." I agreed, but deep down I knew that our friendship would never be the same again. I hated Tommy for everything. Even when he made his silly jokes, his smile was disgusting to me. "So, how's everything at home?" Tommy asked, oblivious to my anger. "Fine," I replied shortly, "just fine." Tommy looked at me, sensing that something was wrong. "Okay, Jack, what's going on? You've been acting weird all night." I took a deep breath, trying to hold back my emotions. "I read your emails, Tommy." Tommy's face went pale. "The ones you sent to Karen?" I said, trying to keep my voice level. Tommy tried to stammer out an excuse, but I wasn't having any of it. "How could you do this to me, Tommy? You're my best friend. And Karen, how could you betray me like this?" Tommy hung his head in shame. "I don't know, Jack. It was a mistake. We were both going through some stuff, and it just happened." "It just happened," I repeated incredulously. "Do you have any idea what you've done to me?" "I'm sorry, Jack. I never meant to hurt you. Sorry isn't good enough, Tommy. You've destroyed our friendship, and you've destroyed my marriage." Tommy looked up at me, tears in his eyes. "I know, Jack. I know, and I'll do anything to make it right." But at that moment, I didn't want to hear it. I stood up, throwing some money on the table. "I need some time to think," I said, before walking out of the bar, leaving Tommy sitting there alone. After that night at the bar, I didn't speak to Tommy or Karen for a while. I needed time to process what had happened and figure out what to do next, but eventually, I knew I couldn't avoid the situation any longer. I arranged to meet with Karen at a coffee shop, and she looked nervous as soon as she saw me. "Jack, I'm so sorry," she said, tears in her eyes. "Save it," I replied, my voice cold. Karen looked down at her lap. "It was a mistake, Jack. I know that now, and I'll do anything to make it right." "It's too late for that," I said. "You've ruined our marriage, and as for Tommy, I can't even look at him right now." Karen's face fell. "You talked to Tommy?" "I had to," I said. "He's my best friend, or at least he was." "I don't know, Jack. I don't know," Karen said, tears streaming down her face. We sat there in silence for a few minutes, both of us lost in our own thoughts. But eventually, I knew I had to say something. "Look, Karen, I don't know what the future holds for us, but right now, I need some space. I need time to figure out what I want." Karen nodded, still crying. "I understand, Jack, and whatever you decide, I'll support you." But as I walked away from the coffee shop, I knew that it wasn't that simple. My marriage was over, and my friendship with Tommy was in shambles. I needed to figure out a way to get back at them both, to make them feel the same pain that they had caused me. For weeks after my confrontation with Karen, I was consumed with anger and bitterness. I couldn't believe that my best friend and my wife had betrayed me like this, and I knew that I couldn't just let it go. I spent hours thinking about ways to get revenge on them, to make them feel the same pain that they had caused me, and finally I came up with a plan. One day when Tommy was out of town for work, I went to his house and painted his car bright pink. I knew it was a childish move, but it felt good to take some sort of action. And then I went to my own house and started throwing away all of Karen's expensive stuff. Her designer clothes, her jewelry, anything that I knew would hurt her. It was a reckless move, but I couldn't help myself. But it wasn't enough. I needed to do something even more drastic. One night, I went to a bar looking for someone who could help me with my plan. And that's where I met Eddie. "So, what do you want me to do?" Eddie asked me, his eyes glinting with excitement. "I need you to help me scratch up Tommy's car," I said. "And I need you to help me get rid of some of Karen's most prized possessions." Eddie grinned. "Sounds like fun." And that's how it started. Eddie and I spent the next few nights driving around, scratching up Tommy's car and throwing away Karen's stuff. It was a rush like nothing I had ever felt before. But even as we did it, I knew that what I was doing was wrong. I was hurting the people I loved, and I didn't know if I could ever come back from that. As the days went by, my anger and desire for revenge only grew stronger. I knew I needed to come up with a bigger and better plan if I really wanted to push Tommy and Karen pay for what they did. I spent countless hours brainstorming ideas, and finally I came up with a plan. I would break into Tommy's house while he was away on a business trip and scratch up his car even more. But this time, I wouldn't stop there. I would also destroy Karen's most prized possessions, the ones that she treasured the most, but I knew I couldn't do it alone. I needed someone who was willing to help me. That's when I reached out to Eddie again. He was hesitant at first, but eventually he agreed to help me. "We're really going to do this?" Eddie asked as we stood outside Tommy's house, waiting for the right moment. "We have to," I said, my voice cold and determined. "We can't let them get away with this." We waited until we were sure that no one was home, and then we made our move. I went straight to the garage and began scratching up Tommy's car, while Eddie went into the house and started destroying Karen's prized possessions. As we worked, I could feel a sense of satisfaction growing inside me. This was exactly what they deserved, I thought. They deserved to feel the same pain and betrayal that they had caused me. But then something unexpected happened. As I was scratching up Tommy's car, I heard the front door open. I froze, my heart pounding in my chest. "Jack, Eddie, what are you guys doing here?" Tommy's voice called out. I turned around and saw him standing there, his face a mix of confusion and anger. I stuttered, trying to come up with an excuse. But it was too late. Tommy had already seen what we had done. "What the hell is wrong with you guys?" he shouted, his face turning red with rage. I didn't know what to say. I had been so consumed with anger and bitterness that I hadn't thought about the consequences of my actions. "I'm sorry," I said finally, my voice barely above a whisper, but Tommy didn't want to hear it. He stormed over to me and pushed me against the car, his hands gripping my shoulders tightly. "You've ruined everything, Jack," he said, his voice shaking with anger. "You've destroyed our friendship. You've ruined my marriage. And now you've even damaged my car. What the hell is wrong with you?" I didn't know what to say. I felt ashamed and guilty, but I also felt like I couldn't go back now. I had gone too far. "I'm sorry, Tommy," I said again, but it was too little too late. Our friendship was over, and I knew that I would have to live with the consequences of my actions for the rest of my life. The aftermath of my revenge was nothing like I had expected it to be. My friendship with Tommy was over, and Karen had filed for divorce soon after. I had lost two people that I had cared about deeply, and it was all because of my own selfish desire for revenge. In the days and weeks that followed, I found myself plagued with guilt and regret. I couldn't shake the feeling that I had gone too far, that I had let my anger and bitterness control me in a way that was dangerous and destructive. I tried to reach out to Tommy to apologize and make things right, but he refused to speak to me. I knew that I had hurt him deeply, and that our friendship was probably beyond repair. Karen, on the other hand, was more willing to talk to me. She had always been the more level-headed of the two, and she understood that I had been hurt and angry when I found out about her affair with Tommy. "I know that what I did was wrong, Jack," she said to me one day as we sat down for coffee. "I know that I hurt you, and that I hurt you, and that I hurt Tommy. But what you did, what you and Eddie did, was just as wrong." "I know," I said, my voice heavy with regret. Karen sighed, her eyes filled with sadness. "I wish you could have talked to us, Jack. I wish you could have told us how you were feeling instead of trying to get revenge. Maybe things could have turned out differently." I knew that she was right, but it was too late now. The damage had been done, and I would have to live with the consequences. As the weeks turned into months, I tried to move on with my life. I got a new job, made some new friends, and even started dating again. But no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't escape the guilt and regret that I felt over what had happened. It wasn't until one day when I was out for a walk that I finally found some peace. I came across a group of kids playing, laughing, and running around, and I felt a sense of joy and hope that I hadn't felt in a long time. It was then that I realized that I needed to let go of my anger and bitterness and focus on the things in life that really mattered. I needed to learn from my mistakes and try to be a better person. And with that realization, I finally felt a sense of peace that I had been searching for. The wounds of the past would never completely heal, but I knew that I had taken the first steps towards a better future.